midpoint and distance, you guys have absolutely seen this before, right? Oh, I know you lie. I can ask this Mitchell right now. She will shame you. He said he's never saw. Well, you had the score, and I know she did it too. So,
I didn't have Mitchell for the full year.
yeah, but you did for most of the year.
I had his mule. I hated her. I hated her.
All right, so we're talking about, Chris, you with me? Midpoint and distance. The way that we know that something is a midpoint, one, it either tells you, or we have these like hash marks there that says it is congruent. Okay, if something is congruent, that means that it is the same. Okay, so let's look at our first definition. A midpoint, which we've already talked about a little bit, divides the segment into two congruent segments. So if you look at this first picture, it tells you M is the midpoint. Let's say, for instance, it did not say that. And let's say that this was not here. How would I know that M is the midpoint?
Because the other two little lines.
Yeah, the little hash marks. These hash marks mean that they are congruent. Okay, so that's how I could know. All right, so a bisector is anything that intersects the segment at the midpoint. So if you look at the second picture, it says segment CD is a segment bisector of AB. We don't really have to know that right now, but as long as you know that word bisector. We talked about that last week or last class too. All right, take a look at example 1. The biggest part of geometry is actually reading what it says. In the diagram, it says RT bisects UV at point S. Okay? Then it says US is equal to 42.5. So let's write that in. Whatever I write, I want you guys to write. If US is 42.5, Brian, what is SB going to be? Yeah, 42.5. How do I know that? Because of these hash marks. Chris, you good? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just fill in my picture based on what I know. Now it says to find UV. So that means they want us to find this entire segment here.
You can add the numbers.
Yeah. We can add the numbers. So what's 42.5 times 2? What do we get for UV? Add them together, or you can multiply by 2. 85. So the measure of UV is 85. If you wanted to do 42.5 plus 42.5, that's 42. Get the same answer. All good on example 1? You can't be that tired yet.
I'm very tired.
I fell asleep like I was doing.
At what?
At 3.
I don't know how you guys do
I
that.
fell asleep at like 9 o'clock.
I go to bed around 11. So I'll get super tired in the morning. Alright, if M is the midpoint of segment CD, find the length of CN. We've done this before on day 2. We did measuring segments. Okay? If I know that CN is 6x plus 4 and ND is 7x minus 2, what do I do with those numbers? How do I solve for x?
You add them. Oh.
Add them together?
Get X. Right?
But if M is the midpoint, they're going to equal each other, right? So we have 6x plus 4 is equal to 7x minus 2. I had someone on the quiz do these two segments equal to 180. Okay, we have to know that angles and segments are completely different. Okay, there's nothing about a segment that equals 90 degrees or 180 degrees. Doesn't make sense. That midpoint tells us everything we need to know. All right, Diana, how do I solve for x? What's the first step I'm going to do? Well, I have to move something before I combine, so what do you want to move? Oh, the 6x? Alright, that's cool. So subtract 6x from both sides. That cancels out. I'm left with 4 equals to 1x minus 2. Just brought that down. Alright, Sydney, now what? What should we do now? Okay, how do I get rid of a negative 2? We're going to add to both sides. So I'm left with 4 plus 2, which is 6, is equal to 1x. Divide by 1, so x equals 6. All right, that's all good. They didn't ask me for x. They asked me for Cn. So if I want to find Cn, I'm going to plug in. Cn, they told me, was 6x plus 4. Instead of x, what do I type in? 6. So type this into your calculator. Everyone do it. Don't just wait for it to be blurted out. 6 times 6 plus 4 gives us what?
40.
We should get 40, good. Now let's test our midpoint skills. Since I know that Cm is 40, what's MD going to be?
40.
40, good.
More than 9.
All right, you guys good on that?
Yes.
All right, midpoint formula. I know you guys have seen this. You will not have this on a formula sheet for your SOL
Why that?
because we have to just know it. Okay, so we're going to drill it into your heads until you memorize it. Midpoint is the middle of the segment, right? So that means we're going to take our x's, add them up, divide by 2. Take your y's, add them up, divide by 2. What's important about midpoint is reading everything that it says so you know what you're looking for. Letter A says the endpoints of GH are G is 2, negative 4, and H is 3, positive 3. 3 and 3. Find the coordinates of the midpoint. So we're looking for midpoint here. I'm going to do n equals, because that's our midpoint. I know that this is, but this is smaller. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Okay, go ahead. All right, so if I add my x's together, what's x1? 2 plus what's x2? 3 divided by 2. And my y's, what's y1? Negative 4 plus what's y2? 3 divided by 2. We like to keep this in like an ordered pair. What did you say, Chris?
Why do you not add?
We are. We're going to add them now. All right, so what is 2 plus 3?
5.
Okay, so we have 5 over 2. That does not reduce. You can leave it just like that. If you type this into your calculator, you do 2 plus 3. Make sure you hit enter first and then divide by 2. All right, for my y's, negative 4 plus 3 gives me what? And negative 1 over 2 is just negative 1/2. You can leave it as a fraction. If you wrote that as a decimal, it would not be wrong. But when I do it up here with you guys, you'll always have a fraction. All right, let's do the same thing for letter B. For letter B, it says the endpoints of AB are A is 3 and 5, and B is 7 and negative 9. Find the coordinates of the midpoint. So we're looking for midpoint again. All right, what are my x's here? What's my x1?
3.
3 plus what's x2?
7.
7 divided by 2. And then my y's, what's y1? 5 plus, what's y2? Negative 9 divided by 2. All right, what's 3 plus 7? 10 divided by 2? Should get 5. Right now we're just simplifying. And then 5 plus negative 9, or you could just do 5 minus 9. What do we get there? Negative 4. Good. And then negative 4 divided by 2 gives me negative 2. Right? Keep that negative. All right, so my midpoint for those two endpoints are going to be 5, negative 2. All right, you guys can go to lunch. When you get back, please be on time because you still have to finish midpoint and your distance. Okay, so we talked about reading what it's asking you to find, because if it says midpoint, you're going to use the midpoint formula, correct? But look at letter C. It says the midpoint of xy is 1, 2. One endpoint of x is 4, 1. Find the coordinates of endpoint y. If they ask you to find the endpoint, you're going to do something different. You are not going to use your formula. Okay? What I want you to do is this. Write down what I write. I think it's easier to do it this way. If I do it, I can show you the longer way with the formula, but I just think it's more confusing. All right, so what's my segment? What they tell me the segment is? XY, right? We're going to type in, or write X, Y, and in the middle we're going to write N. What does that M stand for? The midpoint. For letters A and B, we did not have the midpoint, so we had to find it. For letter C, they gave us the midpoint. What is it?
1, 2.
So I want you to write 1, 2.
And for x, what, 4, 1?
Yes, for my X coordinate, Chris just told us it is 4, 1.
What about for y?
Okay, that's what we have to find, okay? They're asking us to find the coordinates of y. So here's what we're going to do. Look at your X values, all right? We're just looking straight up and down here. The X value for my X point is 4. The X value for my midpoint is 1. How do I get from 4 to 1? Think about a number line. You're doing what?
Subtract 3.
Yeah, we're going to subtract 3. Because we're doing midpoint, whatever we do to one part of the line, we do to the second part of the line. So to find my y, I'm going to also subtract 3. What is 1 minus 3?
Is that, so wait, 3, subtract 3, is that because you
Take
solved
it
it already?
Is that because what?
Because you solved it already? So like 4, 1, 2.
Yeah, I'm just asking myself, how do I get from 4 to 1? I'm going backwards 3.
Where are they? 3, 1.
Imagine you have a number line. This point is at 4. My midpoint is at 1. How do I get from this point to my second point? I'm going backwards. 1, 2, 3.
Oh.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm subtracting 3.
Is there supposed to go before?
Oh. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Let's be on the track. Does that make sense, Sydney? Okay. What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how we can get my other endpoint. Look at the second one. I'm going from positive 1 to positive 2. How do I get there? If I add 1, I'm going to do it to my top and the bottom. So what's 2 plus 1?
4.
Chris, can you not do that, please?
What?
2 plus 1?
Oh, it was 1, like the 2.
Okay. So what is my endpoint of y? What do we have the endpoint of y?
Negative 2,
Negative 2,
3. Oops. Yes, good. Yes, good.
Let's practice with letter D. Okay, the midpoint of JK, so I'm going to write J and K. The midpoint is 6, 3. Whenever they give us the midpoint, we're going to do it this way. One endpoint is J, which is 4, negative 2. Find the endpoints of K. So I have no idea what K is going to be. How do I get from 4 to 6?
Add 2.
You're adding 2. So because it's midpoint, I'm also going to do it to the other segment. What's 6 plus 2? 8. Okay, look at your y values. How do I get from negative 2 to positive 3? Think about this. Negative 2, I need to equal, or I need to equal positive 3. What's going to go here?
5.
Am I adding 5 or subtracting 5?
Adding.
Okay, that's true. Negative 2 plus 5 gives me 3. So I'm going to add 5 both sides. So what is 3 plus 5?
8.
So what is the endpoint of K?
8.
K is at 8, 8. We are only doing it this way when they give us the midpoint. If they don't give me the midpoint, I'm solving for it with my formula. Any questions here? Eventually we'll do midpoint on Desmos, but not right now. All right, your distance formula. I know you guys have seen this before. This is where you need your calculators handy. All right, use the distance formula to find the distance between the two given points. All right, my 2 is x1, 6 or negative 6 is y1. And I have x2 and y2. Okay, to find the distance, I want you guys to type in exactly what I'm writing. Sorry, I want you to write what I'm writing. Don't type anything yet. All right, so my formula tells me I have x2 minus x1. Chris, what's my x2?
5.
5 minus
2.
2, that's my x1 squared. And then what about my y's?
Negative
Negative 2 minus
6.
negative 6. Be careful with that one. All right, let's grab your calculators. And we're going to type this in. We're going to type second square root, parentheses, and I have 5 minus 2 squared plus parentheses negative 2 minus, was it negative 6?
Yeah.
Negative 6 squared. Okay, then we're going to hit enter. We should get positive 5.
I got some from the charts.
Oh, say that word ever. Oh, you know why? Because you put a minus here, so it's negative. So, negative 2 minus. Okay, so what you're going to write is distance equals 5. All right, let's do letter B. Let's set it up the same way. All right, Sam, what's my x2?
4.
No, be careful, x2, what's your second x?
Oh,
12 minus what?
2.
Minus what?
2.
Where do you see 2?
Oh, wait, never mind. 4.
4 squared plus, what's my y2? 3 minus 9 squared. All right, let's take that into our calculators.
So in this in these ones are only gonna be a subtraction. I mean, yeah.
Excuse me?
Like, for the thing when you write it down, subtraction, right? Only if we do subtraction.
Inside the parentheses?
No, like plus and subtraction. Like, you only do subtraction on that?
I'm not understanding what you're
Mine
asking.
you should with the 12 minus 4 is an only subtraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what our formula says.
But it,
But if this was like a -4, that would be positive. It would be 12 minus -4.
but,
Yeah, I would just type in whatever you see.
but on number A, it only has, it doesn't have subtraction. It's only plus on it, plus subtraction.
You didn't have what?
You said minus. If I have minus, it's a positive. It's not positive in A.
What are you looking at? I'm so confused. Right here.
No, I'm talking, you were just saying if it has a minus, I mean subtraction, it's positive, but it's not positive on there.
It's the same thing. See that if I write -2 plus 6, that's the same thing as minus negative. It's just a double negative. You get the same answer. You get 4. So it's the same exact thing. Here, I just wrote it as it was. I didn't change anything. But if you wanted to make that a positive, you could. It would be okay. You wouldn't make it wrong. So I would just write whatever you see. So for like letter B, you have 4 minus 12 parentheses squared plus parentheses. What is that supposed to be? Oh wait, it's backwards. Sorry. You guys have 12 minus 4, right? 12 minus 4 squared plus 3 minus 9 squared. Did you guys get 10? Yeah. Alright, good. So this side of your distance is letter C. I want you guys to do C and D. We'll check the answers in 5 minutes. For letter C, you should have your distance equals 4 minus 2 squared plus -1 minus 3. Did you guys get that? What did you get for your answer?
4.5.
Okay, that works. I got 4.47. I just rounded a little differently.
Yeah.
If you got 4.5, that's okay too. For letter D, do your x2, so that would be 1 minus -3 squared plus -4 minus 2 squared. What did you guys get for this one?
6.94.
Oh, I got 7.21.
Yeah, that's what I got. I just added a number.
Yeah, that's okay. Chris, are your numbers just like mine? 1
I
minus.
got negative. Yeah.
Okay. I will do it. All right, so any questions on this lesson? This was your last lesson of Unit 5. So if you don't understand something, I'm after school tomorrow until about 4:30, I guess.
We have all.
Guys, listen, I'm after school till what time tomorrow? Wait, what's today, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Sorry, so not tomorrow, Thursday. I'm after school. So if you need help, please, please, please ask. Next class, we're doing a test review. We're doing a vocab quiz. So go over your vocab. We're also going to go over it too before I give you the quiz. And then your test will be on Tuesday. I'll grade your quizzes and I'll get them back to you next class. Yes, now you can get water.